Hi guys, it's Kelly here and I am back with another video. Today's video is a little bit different today. I'm actually doing a review of the sketch markers, the Brush Pro markers. So here, what you see me doing is sketching. So I did not want to do a review of the markers that was going to be associated with any sort of company's product. I didn't really feel like that was fair. So in order to kind of disassociate from any sort of company that I work for, I just decided to draw my own illustration and then color that for this particular project. So you can't buy this image anywhere because this is me drawing it for you to see. So I had to do kind of my own research for this video. All of these opinions are my own. Please take them, just for exactly what they are. I try to be really transparent with you guys. I try to be really open and honest. And so Sketchmarker reached out to me and asked me if they could send me a set of markers to review with nothing, with no expectations. So it wasn't like, oh, we'll send you this and you give us a good review. It was just, we'll send them to you and then you can, review them. And so I was like, yeah, sounds like a plan. So they sent them over to me and they have a couple of different sets. So the one that they sent me is the pop art set. It has 48 colors in it. This was actually a really good pick for me. I didn't pick it. They just sent me whatever they sent me. But because I do more florals and I like bold and bright colors, this set was a super good set for me. And then once we get done with the drawing, which is obviously enormously sped up, but still included. So because I wanted you to see that this was, my own work and not to be associated with anything else. But anywho, so this one I felt like was a pretty good mix. They do have other sets. They have a skin tones, they have a basics. So they have a bunch of other options. And this one was just, whoever picked to ship it to me, like, thanks, because it was a really good set for me. I'm not going to make you wait 500 years to tell you what my ultimate thoughts were. I mean, obviously we'll summarize at the end, but this is a longer video. I will tell you that I liked them. I liked them quite a bit. That's why you're seeing this video, because if I wouldn't have liked them, I wouldn't have done a video. I wouldn't have done the video. I wouldn't have posted it, because it's not my job to poo-poo what other people enjoy, but I do want to share with you guys when I find things that I like. So I would not say that these are a budget marker, just to be clear. I'm going to give you some, this was part of my research and having to do all of the work. I'm going to give you some numbers. We're going to have the maths. My apologies. I'm sorry. We have to have some math. So I'm going to break those down just so you can kind of get an idea. So for a sketch marker, which I do have a coupon, by the way, it's 15% off and it's in the description below. The sketch marker for the Sketchmarker Brush Pro markers is $4.50, whether you buy it from their website or you buy it from a craft store. Right now, the only craft store I know that sells these is Ellen Hudson. And in both of their stores, it's $4.50. Comparatively, a Copic marker is at Ellen is at $6.39. At Simon Says Stamp, it's $7.99. And at Dick Blick, which is where I buy my Copic markers because they are the cheapest that I have found without a sale, they are $5.85. So this is considerably cheaper. Also something to note, a Copic sketch marker typically carries about 1.8 milliliters of ink. A Copic Chow, which is a smaller one, carries a 1.4 milliliters of ink. Sketchbar says that their new markers carry 2.5 milliliters of ink. So that's a pretty substantial difference, especially considering their price point is lower. Now, you guys know that I love my Copic markers. I use them all the time. But nothing like this was on the market when I started my collection. And that may be something to think about if you haven't started yours yet, or if you want to supplement some colors. You can buy these individually, or you can buy them in sets. This set that they sent me is $185 on their website. Again, you can use that coupon, that 15% off, which is good through the end of January, just so we're clear. But Copic doesn't have a comparative set. They don't have a 48 marker set. So the two that I found were a 36 set and a 72 set. So for Ellen doesn't even sell the sets. Simon doesn't sell the 36 set. Simon Says Stamp only sells the 72 set for $575. The $72 set at Dick Blick is $421, and the 36 cents is $210. So for 36 Copic markers, you spend $210, or for 48 markers of the Sketchmarker Brush Pros, you would spend $185. All of them, just like Copics, you could buy individually. And so you can see that there's kind of some differences on the price point. So here is the colors that are included. This is me opening up my package. I hadn't even opened it before I did my illustration. And so they come in this box. Mine are still in the box, but they also have this little plastic holder, so it keeps all of them in there. And then they just includes like some little practice things, but also this kind of inlay for all of the colors. Let's talk about the spectrum of colors. So Sketchmarker Brush Pros has over 400 colors. I do not think you will need all of the colors, but I also don't think you need all of the Copic colors, and they only have 358. So when I pulled them out, there is a chisel side and there is a brush tip, just like a Copic sketch marker. So I pulled them out. I started kind of playing around with them. I played around with them to see how they blended. So I picked a 3-color blend and did the same thing that I would do with my Copic markers. I started with my lightest, mid-tone, darkest, and then darkest, mid-tone, lightest. And they blended really well. The thing that I have found the most trouble with and trying to find a alcohol marker that would be comparative to a Copic marker is the brush tip. So here I'm just showing you the difference in their size. So the Sketchmarker Brush Pro is a round, but they have like this little, like a wing, like a little wing on it, on the cap that will keep it from rolling. So when you set it, it doesn't roll anywhere. Whereas the Copic sketch markers are oval and they do roll. They can roll. These can be stored horizontally or vertically according to their website. Either or, it's not going to matter. Oh, look, it says 448 colors. I knew it was over 400, but I didn't realize it was quite that many. So here I just went through and you saw I probably, briefly, I changed them into a rainbow order, and then I went through and I swatched all of my colors. I will spare you the swatching of all of the colors. One of the things that I did notice in this particular set, which is ironic, is that it doesn't really have any blues. It has one blue marker, and I kind of wish it would have a couple more, but obviously I would be able to purchase those on my own as individual markers, or I could purchase another set to supplement those colors. Going back to finding the brush nib, these are probably the most similar brush tips that I have found to a Copic marker. They say on their website that they don't have the drying out problem. They don't have the overfilling problem. Long term, I can't speak to that because obviously I have just gotten these. But I will tell you that when I was doing my coloring, I did not notice any of that. I didn't notice it to be problematic. The other thing that I didn't love about my particular set is it does include a black in here. They have a pure black, a blue black, and a violet black, I think. But the violet black is really a dark purple. it's not a true black. And I think that in any set, like, they include the blender, which is super important. But then I also think that there should be a true black that is included as well. Just my thoughts. So here I'm just showing you comparatively the coloring. So I pulled out one of the grays, and then I showed you, like, this is the violet black, and then this is a pure black in Copic, and you can see the difference. The other thing that I wanted to do is, you guys know that in my coloring, I love a lot of color variation, and I love blending color families. And so that was one of the things that I wanted to see if I could do. It worked very well outside of the yellow. Like, the yellow was a little bit problematic for me. I really had to work at it. But again, that could just be the combination that's in this particular set. The greens, blues, purples all blended really well. I didn't have any issues with that. The pinks and the reds blended, super well. I didn't have any issues with that. I just had a little trouble with the yellow options. So yeah. The other thing I wanted to mention was the refills. So Copic recently changed their refills to be kind of the long, narrow tip, and they no longer sell the large refills, and I abhor them. I don't like the new ones. I understand the old ones were messy, but I don't care. Here I was just going over, like, making a line or designs with the blender to see how much color it would lift. I would say that that is also comparative to a colorless blender. It seemed to move the ink around in the same fashion that I am used to with my Copic colorless blender. Now we're going to get into the coloring of this image that I have drawn for you. I tried in the beginning to stay very true to the color families. I then did a flower where I mixed them together. I mixed color families together, and then I did some color glazing, which is something else that I typically do in my coloring. And all that is going over one color with another to change the tone or the hue of that particular image. Also, this flower on the top right-hand side is a little bit wonky. Don't come for me. I drew this in like 20 minutes, okay? Okay? We weren't spending a whole lot of time on our drawing. It was really only so I could practice with the markers. I have no intention of doing anything else with this image. So yeah, the refills with the extra large refills Copic's gotten rid of, I was super mad about that. I know that it's messy to refill that way, but it is so much faster. The new refills that have the smaller nib take forever to refill my marker, and I use my markers on almost every project that I create. So that is no good for me. It is no good for this girl. So for the refills, a Copic refill costs about $5.99. The cheapest that I found it was again at Dick Blick or Blick Arts. It goes by both names, for $5.39. But this allows you to refill your marker in the neighborhood of 7 times. And the Sketchmarker Brush Pros are 20 milliliters. 20 milliliters. It's the large one. We're back to the large one, which I super love. For $5.90 on their website. So it's almost the same price as a Copic refill, and you get 8 more milliliters, which allows you to refill your marker 10 to 12 times. Obviously, if you're a person who is, and this is true for both of the markers, if you're a person who is into the environment, buying refillable markers, buying markers where you can swap out the nibs, is obviously keeping people from purchasing more markers, producing more plastic. There's less waste with it. So all of that is good for the environment, and that is true of both of these, the Copics and the Sketchmarker Brush Pro. So, but I'm here like for the refills. I'm totally here for the refills. You can swap out the nibs. They sell replacement nibs, both the brush and the chisel. So you can swap those out as well. And just to give you a little bit of, I guess, like background information, I'm not going to go into it huge. Ellen Hudson has an amazing like spreadsheet that she has put on her website that I will link to that does a lot more explaining of the difference between the two. And then Sketchmarker also has one on their Brush Pro markers. But basically, these are alcohol markers. Everything was created in Japan. The nibs are replaceable. The markers are refillable. It has over the 400 colors, which is one of the largest palettes in the world. You guys also know that I'm not a person who thinks that you need to own all of the colors. So I don't know how big of, like, for me that would play into it. But if you're a person who wants a lot of options and doesn't want to have to create your own colors, that is something that's probably pretty appealing. So we have our first flower colored. I'm doing the same thing that I would do with any other image. I am using the flicking technique. I had no issues with this whatsoever. And I did notice, which may be a highlight in that more colors option. Typically with my Copic markers, I love a bright pink. Okay. There's a reason why I picked the colors that I picked for this flower set. I love a hot pink. I love a magenta. And typically for Copics, you guys have heard me say this before, those are the hardest to blend. I did not really have that problem here. I used a 4-color blend just like I would with my Copic markers, but I didn't have the same problem of the lightest color kind of bleaching everything out and making it a little bit more challenging to blend them. So I think that is all of the information that I have for you. Like I said, Sketchmarker has generously offered me a 15% off coupon that's good through the end of January. They also have, which I'm very intrigued to try, they have a fine liner set. And you guys know that if you've watched my channel, I really love the EK Success journaling pens, and that's what I've used for years, but that they were discontinued, and so I'm just using up the last of my stock. So I've been on the hunt for a new fine liner that I love, and they have, like, you can buy them individually for $2, or you can buy the 6-person set, which is like, I think it's like $12.50 or something. So I do intend to pick those up so I can try those out to see if maybe I could find a new go-to. I'm excited about that. But I really think that's like mathematically the whole breakdown. I did enjoy these. I didn't have any issues doing my normal techniques. Like I said, the brush tip is probably the most similar to the other markers that I normally use. But again, they're clearly cheaper. Okay, let's not pretend like that's not the case. They are clearly less expensive than the Copic markers. But that doesn't mean that they are cheap or inexpensive. Just want to be clear about that. It's still going to be an investment, but especially with the refills, man, that's so huge that 20 milliliters for basically the same price as a Copic refill that's a lot. That's a big difference, especially when you're somebody like me who uses my markers all the time. So that's that. We're going to finish coloring up this image. It's so funny to me. So I guess this is going to be story time for the illustrations. So you guys know, and I've talked about it in the past, like my husband's super supportive and he's wonderful. And he, 3 Mother's Days ago, he bought me an iPad with an Apple Pencil because I wanted to turn my sketches into digital images. And for a long time, I couldn't really get myself to do it because I just like a pencil and paper. Like, that's just the reality of it. I just do. And so then I was talking to my friend Jen Shirkus, who is amazing. And she was like, why don't you just draw it in a pencil and paper and then take a picture of it and then import that into your iPad? And I was like, that's kind of brilliant, because then it gives me, like, I can draw it the way I want to draw it with pencil and paper, and then I can just bring it into Procreate and then trace it and then make any adjustments that I need to adjust it digitally. So I started doing that quite some time ago. And here I also tried the tip to tip method, which is pretty common with Copa colorists. When you're trying to get an in-between color, you can take a lighter color to a darker color and then create this in-between color that you can color with. I also had no issues doing that. That worked very well for my little berries, because like I said, I only have one blue in this set, and I couldn't make it without any blues. Here I'm using the orange to kind of color glaze right over this red. I didn't have any issues with that either. They blended very nicely into each other, and then that way it changed the tone of that marker. I also picked out some yellow greens and some blue greens for my leaves. And obviously, these are all part of the same leaf stalk. So in reality, they wouldn't be multiple colors. But this is and I do what I want. So in mine, they're multiple colors. So I could try out multiple colors. It's really the only reason. Plus, more colors is always more interesting. So anyway, I have been doing that for quite some time, turning my sketches into digital images. And I have had other companies, like when I've shared my pictures on Instagrams and stuff, reach out and been like, oh, I would buy that as a stamp, or we'd be interested in that as a stamp. And I was just like, no, I'm not ready. No, I'm not ready. No, I'm not ready. I'm not ready. And so, Dawn, you guys know, is the owner of W+9 and one of my best friends. She was like, girl, you ain't never going to be ready. Like, you're just going to have to commit to it. So I reached out to one of the stamp companies and I was like, okay, I'm not making any promises, but what are you looking for? And I will see what I can come up with. And so nothing's really come of it yet, but it has put me in a place where I have something else that kind of gives me joy or feeds my soul. Because even though it's, still creative, it's not what my job is now. And I think that that's something that's so important, that even though card making and crafting is now literally how I pay my bills, that I still have some other creative outlet of some kind. And so the drawing or the illustrating is kind of filling that need. I've also thought about maybe getting into some painting or something like that, where, my livelihood isn't hinged to it. You know what I'm saying? And because isn't that why we all start hobbies? So here with the blue greens, there isn't necessarily a dark teal. So I use that same dark blue to shade the base of my leaves there. And then I just went over it with the teals, and that worked really nicely to just add a little bit of depth in there. So don't be afraid to mix your colors. I know that I keep saying there wasn't a lot of blues in this set, and I wish there was. We all wish that there were more colors everywhere. We all do. And then here I'm just going in with one of the gray markers, and I'm adding a shadow I like to do my shadows down and to the left. This just helps give the image just a little bit more dimension and help it kind of pop off the page. But you can do your shadows in whatever direction you would like. I just prefer down and to the left because that's how I was originally taught it 100 years ago in my art class that I took in 8th grade. So, but anyway, we all get into these hobbies because it's, kind of an escape or a stress release or any of that. So when it's your job, which by no means am I complaining, I have a wonderful job, and I'm endlessly grateful to my husband who works so incredibly hard to make it so that I can do this, because he's providing my health insurance and those things. He's picking up any slack where maybe, if I'm not making the money that I was making when I was working, full-time outside of the house, he picks up that slack, and he's amazing. But just, I don't know, it's just another way for me to kind of be creative, and I have really, really been enjoying that. So this is the last step that I did. I just added some highlights with my white gel pen. I had no issues with these going right over the markers and staying a true white. I added some highlights to the berries, and then that's it. That's the whole thing. So I hope that this was super helpful to you if you're looking, for maybe an alternative to Copics, or if you were trying to check out whether or not these markers might be for you. I hope it was helpful. If you have any questions, by all means, means, leave me a comment and I will try to answer them to the best of my ability, or at least direct you where to go. That coupon code is down below if you are interested in using it. Thank you guys so much for your time. I appreciate it, and I will catch you on the next video. Bye.